I've had the Beastmaster on my must-see list for a while now, ever since Amazon recommended it to me when I purchased another somewhat cheesy genre film from the 1980s. And after tackling several different Barbarian stories here on my channel, I thought now was the perfect opportunity for me to watch the film and discuss my thoughts on it in the form of a review. What I like the most about this film is that it doesn't waste time getting where it needs to go. The first Conan film spent 30 minutes telling us that Conan grew up in slavery and was basically bred for war. This information could have been given to us in 5 minutes, but instead the film wasted time it could have allocated elsewhere. Compare this to the Beastmaster. In 20 minutes we established the villain of the piece, an evil cult leader named Mayax, a prophecy of Shakespearean proportions that says that the unborn child of the king will kill Mayax, and we then see the circumstances that bring our protagonist Dar from being an unborn child to being brought up in a village near the kingdom to then being helpless as his village is attacked by the evil Jun Horde, an army controlled by Mayax. The film does quite a bit in such a relatively short amount of time, and that goes a long way for me, even when the rest of the film doesn't quite match up to how much I enjoyed the beginning of the movie. I mentioned that the movie opens in a very Shakespearean manner. And while it's pretty easy to find Shakespeare in anything if you look hard enough, I thought it was a little strange how this movie doesn't even try to hide the moments it cribs from Shakespeare stories. Mayax asking 3 ugly witch crones to see the future is right out of Macbeth. The villain seeking advice from the witches, and the fact that there are 3 witches seeing the future. The only thing that could have made this more Shakespearean would be if we were following Mayax from his place as the king's buddy to betraying the king and slowly going mad with power. Much later in the movie, Dar and his friends rescue King Zed, who has been blinded by Mayax. Neither Zed nor Dar are aware that they are actually father and son, respectively. This meeting between the characters, and how Zed demeans Dar in front of the rest of the group assembled, screams King Lear to me, and how Gloucester is blinded and does not know that he is traveling with his son Edgar. In King Lear, Gloucester dies of shock when he discovers that his son Edgar is still alive. In the Beastmaster, Mayax reveals to both Zed and Dar that they are family as he kills Zed. Sure, you could argue that this is coincidental, and the similarities aren't as strong as the ones with Macbeth, but it's definitely there. And I'm not entirely convinced that this is a problem. I was certainly distracted by these plot points, but I don't think it diminishes the story, especially when I consider that I really do enjoy Shakespeare stories, and seeing elements of Shakespeare's work show up in movies that aren't adaptations of his work at all, that is alright as far as I'm concerned. Even though I really enjoyed the beginning of the film, it does have its fair share of problems, and unfortunately, the movie only gets worse as it goes on. The movie opens with Mayax finding out that the king's son will kill him, and he decides that he will have to kill the king's son first. The king enters and decides to show a great deal of restraint and merely banish Mayax instead of putting him to death. Why? The king even hears from Mayax himself that Mayax is going to attempt to kill the king's son. So why does the king bother letting Mayax live? Once again, we're dealing with a movie that allows the way the script has been written to get in the way of characters making decisions that make sense. Even the most benevolent king isn't going to kindly banish the mad cult leader when he finds out that his son's life may be in danger. Kill him, Zed! This might just deter any followers he has from doing anything that would result in your wife's death, or your son being birthed from a cow, or your eyes being removed from your head. Just food for thought. So after Mayax is escorted from the city, one of the ugly witch women takes the baby from the queen's stomach and has him teleported into a cow's stomach. Best not to think about that one too much. The baby is, I guess, born, and then she brands his hand, and is about to kill him when he is rescued by a kindly old man whose name is not Jonathan Kent. So why exactly bother branding his hand if you're going to kill him? Maybe there's some explanation that I missed, but more likely, this was something important in the novel that this film is loosely based on. But since I haven't read the novel, nor should I have to in order to enjoy and understand the film, I can't really know why this branding on his hand is important. But even more likely, it seems to me that the plot needed some distinctive mark on Dar so that when the rest of the movie is happening, characters like Maax and Seth can instantly know that he is the firstborn prince. After Dar grows up and survives the massacre of his village, thanks to his loyal dog Crypto, he goes on to avenge his town. And unlike the Conan film, I don't really feel like this movie is wasting time trying to get Dar to the big showdown with the people responsible for the death of his people. Outside of a couple of scenes, Dar pretty much always has his mind on his quest, and most of the movie is, in one way or another, connected to Dar's quest, or Maax's opposite goals of destroying the man who is prophesied to destroy him. I do find just about every scene with Kiri and Dar to be groan-worthy. Dar sees her in the water, and then he meets her and kisses her immediately, and she reacts accordingly, pinning him to the ground and asking him who he is. But after they exchange pleasantries, they both act like they are in love with each other for the entire movie. This is a problem I almost always have with superhero movies, where the film spends so much time on the action scenes that the scenes of humans having human interactions often feel forced, and you find yourself saying, "Oh, really? They fell in love after knowing each other for a week?" This is the same scenario. I would have been just fine not having a love subplot, since I don't ever come to know much of anything about Kiri or Dar, and I definitely don't know why each of them have the hots for each other, other than they are two very attractive individuals, and apparently that is supposed to be enough. I also found one scene in particular to be very peculiar and nonsensical. At one point, Dar wanders into the camp of some creatures who I can only describe as man-bat stomach on the outsideys. These creatures, without speaking, devour a boy they were holding in a cage, but then they give Dar a medallion, and I guess he's free to leave. This is setting up a scene later in the movie when the evil Jun Horde are attacking the kingdom that Maax had been in charge of, and Dar sends the medallion with his pet hawk, and the man-bat stomach on the outsideys things come to the rescue. I don't see how either of these scenes were really necessary to the film. I don't know what these creatures are, or why they eat one guy but consider Dar an ally when he doesn't even do anything. If you think that scene had to be forced into the film so that we could have a way for the Jun Horde to be defeated, that's nonsense, because the writers could have easily written that scene in such a way where Seth, Kiri, and Dar defeat the Jun Horde by themselves. And there's the matter of Maax himself. We see the king's soldiers escorting him out of the kingdom at the beginning of the movie, when Dar is still just a baby. But the next time we see him, he's in charge of the kingdom. He has the king alive in a dungeon for no real reason at all, and is sacrificing children of the kingdom for, again, no real reason at all. I would have liked a quick scene explaining how Maax took the seat of power. Did he have many followers in the city that Zed did not know about? Did he take control of the kingdom immediately after Dar was rescued from the witch woman, or did it take him several years to return to the kingdom for his revenge? We know that Dar has a half-brother who becomes the new king at the end of the film, so it would seem that Maax took the king prisoner after this kid was born. But how did this happen? I'd like to know. And it shouldn't take long to explain. Just a quick line about how Maax has had the city captive for 10 years would be good enough. And while we're on Maax, does he really believe that there is a god who is satisfied when he sacrifices children? Or is Maax just using this as an excuse to keep the people in line? It seems to me that the people don't like Maax, and if he threatens to burn their children alive, then he can keep them pacified and keep his seat of power. But we don't get this information. It's just a scene in a movie, and I have to assume that Maax is a freak who likes to kill kids for no good reason. And hang on a second. Why did Maax have the Jun Horde attack Dar's village at the beginning of the movie? Was he looking for something there? He is there after the massacre, and I'm not sure if this is for our benefit so that we can know that this guy is still around, or if he actually has a reason for doing what he is doing. Again, I can't tell if these weird character inconsistencies and behaviors are taken from the book and we don't have enough time to explain them, or if this is just a failure of the movie itself. As it is presented in the movie, it seems to me that the creators of the movie needed something to break the status quo and pull Dar into the story, so they used the same villains from the flashback scenes at the beginning, even though there's no character reason for them to do what they are doing. I found this movie to be very enjoyable. Gun to my head, I would watch The Beastmaster before rewatching Conan, Cole, or Red Sonja. But just because it's better than 3 really terrible films doesn't mean that this is a particularly good film. I still find that it has many glaring flaws, and I do find it strange that this movie got 2 sequels and a television series as well. But despite these complaints, I did enjoy watching this film for the most part.